Hey guys, we are back. So, Love in the Air won the poll this time, and so that's what we'll be doing. I will start with Love Storm by Mame, which is the story of Payu and Rain. The TV series is already done for their parts. So, let's get into this. I will say this is a fan translation, probably Google translated, to be honest, from what I can read. So if there's any incoherency and grammar painfulness, that's not me. That's the story. So, but I couldn't find any better translations. So this is what we have to work with. Anyway, hope you enjoy. And thank you for 1K subscribers. It really means a lot. Bang. Pop, 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 pop. Hey, what happened to my baby? On a road in central Bangkok, a small European car was driving at the speed of a turtle due to a traffic congestion since the evening. But then an explosion sounded from the front right wheel, followed by a strange sound of wheels scrunching against the road. Then the car started to shake slightly, causing the driver to scream, gripping the steering wheel tightly. He could not dare to look up out of the window. Right now, it's definitely the end of you, Rain. Damn. For an 18-year-old boy who passed his driving test 3 months ago, he took his father's car off the road for less than 2 months. A tire explosion was like a disaster. Fuck. So don't rush me. What should I do first? The fool was helpless before an idea flashed in his head. Well, my father said that if something happens, turn on the emergency lights first. His brain processed immediately, and Rain suddenly hit the emergency light button, which seemed to give meaning to the car behind him, because it turned on the turn signal to overtake him. This went on until his heart sank, but with the car being in the middle lane and getting stuck, he could not stop here. The rookie driver tried to support the car to the side of the road, but pop, 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 pop. Damn. Rain could only examine only one word when the sky had more and more drops of water falling onto the window shield so loudly that he wanted to raise his fist to the sky, shouting to ask if I wasn't bad enough. Now the car in the back knows that there's something wrong with his car, but what to do next? At times like this, he can only do one thing. Papa, help me! He moved to try calling his beloved dad. Knock, knock. Ugh. Before Rain could call his beloved father, he heard a startling knock on the car window. And then he was terrified until he trembled when he turned to see a man dressed in black leather, wearing a black helmet lined with red lights, straddling a huge big bike, looking down with a threatening look until Rain said to himself, I am done for. Am I distracted to do something for you? If it was normal time, Rain would have sped away from him, but in a situation where his car's wheels were torn and crashed into the road, he could only burst into tears. Knock, knock. The other party knocked harder. He pointed his finger at the wheel of the car that had probably burst. Huh? Rain exclaimed. The sound that entered the car was so muffled that it was inaudible, so he pressed the glass down, shouting through the rain. Fee? What's wrong? When he asked, the other party opened his helmet, revealing only his eyes, which were sharp as hawk eyes. There's a detour ahead. You move the car and park there. I'll check the wheels for you. Really? Rain stepped on the brake and put his feet on the edge of the window. His eyes widened and he asked happily, letting the person look at him a bit still, then nodded twice. I'll check the problem for you. The owner of a beautiful big bike said that, and he let Rain press gas and drive the car up ahead. Then he turned the car behind him and also helped to turn on the emergency signal to tell the cars behind them again that the car had broken down, causing the person who had just encountered the disaster to smile. But the smile suddenly stopped as he remembered. Wait, what if I park and get hijacked? A young man born in the city who saw the news of robbery in line links that his mother sent to him every day and secretly felt panicked. But he was comforted that he might not be one of them, and there were a lot of cars around here. If something comes up, he was sure the news will post on Twitter for sure. Well, even if he calls dad, it's probably past midnight until his father comes, so he has to take some risks. Rain looked in the rearview mirror and found that Bike Guy prevented other cars from turning left easily until the newbie drove the car safely to the detour, even if the whistling sound was a bit nerve-wracking. Now parked. Will he survive Bike Guy? The owner of the car secretly glanced at the rearview mirror again and found that the leather jacket man was taking a beautiful big bike to park another car behind him. Turn on the light signal to let the other cars turn to know that there is a broken car here. Then he took a long step closer to the driver's side, bent down, and knocked on the window until the young man was startled. Yes, V? Your tire has punctured. Do you have a spare tire? Well, this good person is not as bad as a jujube leaf. Even though he didn't trust him much, since he gave him help, he wasn't a headstrong robber with the danger like this one. His mama filled his ears every day. Rain walked down and opened the boot, pointed to the other side of the spare wheel and all the mechanics, but honestly, he couldn't do it himself. All of these belonged to his father. Can you use it like this, V? Have you ever changed a tire before? So that's it. Bike Guy muttered and glanced at the sky. So you wait in the car, the rain will fall harder. I will take care of this for you. But why not? If you stay, you will be in the way. So teach me. Rain wanted to reply back to him, but when he saw his sharp gaze combined with the heavy rain pouring down his head, he was unable to argue. He simply stepped into the car, letting the bike guy take the jack to lift the car in front. Do you believe it? With a couple of touches, Rain could feel that his car was easily raised. He could tell it was a very professional one. Zaza, zaza. The rain still wasn't letting up, and Rain could only raise his head anxiously to look at the other person. Well, if this guy didn't have a waterproof leather jacket and a cool helmet, his head would have been completely drenched by now. But that doesn't mean the pants aren't soaked inside. The young man decided to climb into the back seat, grabbed an umbrella, and spread it out of the car. Fit. Even though I can't help you change the tire, I can hold an umbrella so you don't get wet. Is there anything I can help you with? The young man worriedly held out an umbrella to cover the rain, bowing his head, and asked the man who had already taken out the old wheels and was actively replacing the spare wheels. He looked up to meet his eyes, which, if he hadn't thought for himself, he had thought that Bike Guy was smiling because his eyes had softened. Then the other party bent down again, taking off the helmet. You hold it for me. Rain quickly received the helmet and held it in one hand. He observed the man who bends his head to tighten the bolt, and he couldn't see his face, only to see that the other person is a very big man with very broad shoulders. When he moved the screwdriver, the scapula muscle moved visibly even though it was covered with a leather jacket. The dark hair, and long enough to be tied roughly to the nape of the neck, looked sultry, savage, if it's manly enough to get people's attention. Now the robbery story has been blown out of his head. He was left only with thoughts of thanks, plus, so cool. A big man drives a big bike, plus changing the wheels? This is super manly. The young man glanced at the beautiful big bike, then turned back to look at the man who volunteered to change the wheel for him gratefully. Even though this guy was a bit fierce, to be honest, how many times in his life would he be lucky to find such a good person to help him? His lips began to shift into a broad smile. Thank you very much, Fee. If you hadn't helped, I wouldn't even know what to do. If you want to drive, you should learn how to take care of the car as well. So you don't just learn how to drive when you face a problem, at least you should be able to solve the problem yourself. Alright, it's done. Rain felt scolded, but when the car was back on track, he was able to let those words float through his ears and forget them, and was only happy to go home to take a shower and sleep for a while. He nodded grimly, listening to the instructions well. As the other party managed to remove the jack, he stood to his full height, and that made Rain feel that he was too small. But this wasn't the thing that caught his attention the most. It was the sharp face that turned around to meet his eyes. Move back, Nong. I'll take this tire and keep it for you. Phip. The young man took a step back, while still staring at the other man with big eyes. As for Bike Guy, he moved the punctured tire to the back of the car recklessly, then put his hands in front of him. Can I have the helmet back? But Rain just said, so handsome. The young man is sure that even if the faculty moon this year was here, he would exclaim the same thing this year. The bike guy who had long hair that could be tied to the nape of his neck is not only high, but when he takes off his helmet, his eyes are as sharp as the hawk on a prowl. When that is coupled with dark eyebrows, a prominent nose, and thin lips within the sharp frame of the face with faint mustaches, he looked so good that he wanted to shout out to the world that was this even a real man? How much will anyone pay to have this dark, handsome possess them? If I was handsome like this, I would flirt with any girl, Rain thought. Thanks. The handsome man suddenly realized that he had just slipped out of his delirium, but snapped at himself as loudly as if he had been slapped. The only thing left was the gloomy eyes that just realized that he had just seen a stranger who had just met for the first time, and he was raving like the bike guy was a friend in the faculty, even though they just met. The handsome man had a calm face and then just smiled, which made Rain's heart twitch. Thanks for the compliment, and I was asking for this back. Rain froze when the wishful handsome face leaned in until it almost touched his cheek. He was so shocked that he almost pushed the other man if it wasn't for the big hand just pulling the helmet back. As the wind blew with the rain, a manly scent filled his nose. The young man realized that his mind was drifting away. Why did he dodge? He didn't know. He knew, but inside his chest was trembling. The handsome guy went back to standing up straight again and put his helmet on, and that was enough to make Rain breathe a little better. As for you, don't throw your tires on the side of the road. You should go back soon. It's raining like this. Hopefully you won't be sick. The person who was listening quickly nodded, each tentatively wondering if he should wait for his elder brother first. Get in the car. Hurry. I have to rush too. Yes, thank you. Rain quickly got into the car as instructed, stuffing a wet umbrella into the driver's footstool. He glanced in the rearview mirror again and saw that tall bike guy got straddled over the beautiful bike, but he hadn't left yet. If he hadn't thought that he was seeing things in his mind, he would have known that the eyes behind the helmet were looking straight at his car. As the rain became heavier, he realized that if he didn't move the car first, the good citizen who helped fix his car wouldn't have gone either. So he quickly started the car and drove off with twinkling eyes. His mouth couldn't hold back a smile. The young man looked in the rearview mirror again and saw that the other party raised his hand as a goodbye, then accelerated the cool big bike toward the parallel detour and sailed away. As for him, damn it. He can only shout in the car excitedly. He feels that he had just saw a hero riding a white horse this time. But this is way cooler than a white horse because the hero was riding a big Ducati bike. What a man. So cool. Okay, stay tuned for chapter 1 soon, guys. Thanks.